All right, so today we're diving deep into something pretty heavy, narcissistic abuse.
Oh, yeah. This is going to be a good one.
We're going to unpack this analogy from the Narcissistic Abuse Network. It's from their blog post called The Tunnel, Journey with a Narcissist.
I like it already.
Have you ever come across an analogy that just perfectly explains something complex?
Oh, all the time, yeah. Analogies are powerful, right? They make these abstract ideas suddenly click.
Exactly. And this one uses the idea of being lost in, well, you guessed it, tunnels, to show what it's like to be in a relationship with a narcissist.
And it's smart because that feeling of being lost, that darkness, it really gets to us on a primal level.
Yeah, it's instantly unsettling.
So it helps us get a feel for what someone trapped in that kind of relationship might be going through, that emotional turmoil.
So picture this. You're in the Swiss Alps on vacation, but you've missed your train.
Ugh, nightmare scenario.
Right. And the platform's deserted except for this one workman who seems, friendly enough.
Ah, I see where this is going.
You're feeling totally stranded, so you're relieved when he offers to show you a shortcut to the next station.
Classic setup.
And here's the thing.
Yeah.
He somehow knows exactly where you're going without you even telling him.
Oh, that's interesting.
Right. Doesn't that already feel a little off?
Yeah, too good to be true, right?
Yeah. And that's often how it is with a narcissist, at least at first. That charm, that almost uncanny ability to read you.
It can be intoxicating for sure.
They just seem to offer exactly what you need in that moment.
Makes you feel so seen.
But looking back, those seemingly innocent details, like knowing your destination without you telling them, those can be red flags.
Yeah, the ones we often miss because we're so caught up in the moment and the feeling.
So you decide to trust this guy, right?
Yeah.
You follow him onto the tracks, and he leads you toward this dark, imposing tunnel.
Okay, getting creepier now.
The light behind you starts fading, and you find yourself becoming more and more reliant on him to guide you through this growing darkness.
Ah, so we're already seeing that isolation, that dependence forming.
Exactly. Does this, resonate at all?
Oh, absolutely.
Because what this symbolizes is that gradual process of isolation that's so common in these types of relationships. It often starts subtly.
Right, not with a grand dramatic gesture, but with these little things.
Little comments about your friends, maybe they question your hobbies or plant seeds of doubt about your family.
Slowly chipping away at your support system.
Yeah, and over time, it creates this environment where you become completely dependent on the narcissist.
You're alone in that metaphorical tunnel with them.
And just as you're getting this uneasy feeling, the workman starts sharing a personal story.
Oh boy, here we go.
He's talking about how he was abandoned by his brothers as a child, playing on your sympathy.
The classic victim narrative. Narcissists love to pull that one.
And it makes you want to trust him even more, right? You feel for him.
This is a very effective manipulation tactic.
Because, not everyone who shares their struggles is trying to manipulate you. Right.
Sure it's not.
But for narcissists, these stories, whether they're true or exaggerated or totally made up, they serve a purpose.
It's about deflecting accountability.
And making you feel obligated to care for them, even when their behavior is harmful.
Exactly. It's a way to get your sympathy and keep you hooked in.
And then, all of a sudden, your so-called guide disappears. You're alone in the darkness, just surrounded by the eerie silence of the tunnel.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I can feel the tension building.
That feeling of abandonment, the confusion, the sudden shift from feeling seen to feeling totally lost, it's jarring.
It is, and that's exactly what makes this analogy so powerful.
Right, because it's this sudden emotional whiplash.
Exactly, which, is sadly very common in these types of relationships.
1 minute, you're the center of their world. They're showering you with affection.
Love bombing, right.
And the next, they're cold, distant, maybe even cruel.
Leaving you questioning your own reality.
Did I imagine their affection? Did I do something wrong?
It's a form of gaslighting, really, designed to make you doubt yourself, your perceptions, your sanity.
It's insidious. So you're in this dark tunnel, right? Abandoned, utterly lost.
Yeah.
I mean, it's terrifying.
Yeah, you'd want to run back the way you came, right?
Right. But instead, you decide to keep going, keep pushing forward, hoping to find that light at the end of the tunnel.
Oh, I get it.
Stumbling over unseen obstacles, the darkness feels crushing.
But you're clinging to that hope, right?
Exactly. And this is where the analogy gets really interesting.
Because it's it reflects that mindset of someone trapped in a narcissistic relationship, right?
Yeah, they're constantly trying to please the narcissist, hoping things will go back to how they were at the beginning.
That initial love bombing phase, yeah.
When everything felt so intense, So real.
It's a powerful pull.
And it's not just about missing those good times. It's also about that self-doubt that the narcissist has so carefully planted.
Oh, absolutely. That's a huge part of it.
You start questioning everything. Maybe you were too sensitive, too demanding. Maybe you pushed them away.
Which, is exactly what the narcissist wants you to think.
They're masters at shifting the blame, making you feel responsible for their behavior.
And that's why it's not enough to just, escape the situation physically.
Because even when you're out of the tunnel, you're still carrying those scars.
Yeah, those scenes of doubt, that feeling of inadequacy, they can linger for a long time.
So let's say you finally stumble out of that tunnel, relieved to be back in the sunlight.
Okay.
But then you see it. Another tunnel, stretching out before you.
Oh,
And as you're taking that in, you hear the deafening roar of a train.
Oh, God, a train.
Speeding towards you.
That's terrifying.
It's pure panic. You barely manage to scramble into the small cutout in the wall as the train thunders past.
Missing you by inches.
By inches.
Wow, that's powerful imagery.
And what it represents is that cyclical nature of abuse.
Ah, I see.
Those brief periods of good behavior where the narcissist might seem attentive, charming, almost apologetic.
It's like a little break, right? Makes you think things are getting better.
Right, but it's often just a setup.
A prelude to even more intense manipulation or aggression.
It's like being constantly on edge.
Never knowing when that next emotional blow is coming.
And as the train disappears into the distance, the silence returns.
And you're left standing there, I imagine.
And you realize something chilling. Your guide, he knew about the train.
What? No way.
He deliberately put you in danger. He lied.
Oh, that's messed up.
This is where the analogy really hits home, right?
Because it shows us that, narcissists aren't just self-centered.
They can be dangerous.
Their lies, their manipulations, their complete disregard for your well-being.
It can have real consequences.
Putting you in emotional, financial, even physical jeopardy.
So the question becomes, how do you escape that cycle? How do you break free from that tunnel system? How do you find your way back to safety, back to yourself?
It's a big question, yeah. Not an easy one to answer.
So we've been through a lot with this tunnel analogy.
Yeah, some heavy stuff.
It's shown us how subtle manipulation can be.
How it can really mess you up, those cycles of hope and despair.
But now let's talk about the light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak.
Yeah, I like that.
We focused on the darkness. But what about the resources?
Right. What can help someone actually recover?
Well, the blog post itself, The Tunnel Journey with the Narcissist,
Yeah.
it has some good starting points right there in the comment section.
Oh, really? I didn't even notice that.
Yeah. There are links to, a ton of resources on the Narcissistic Abuse Network website.
That's great.
Like stuff about different types of narcissists, tips for building a support system, even advice on divorce when narcissism is involved.
Wow. So practical guidance for real life situations?
Exactly. And what's cool is these resources are often written by people who've been through it themselves.
Oh, I see.
They've walked through those tunnels, you know?
Yeah. That's got to be so validating to hear from people who get it.
It's like having a guide who knows the terrain.
Exactly. And don't forget about professional support, too.
Right.
Finding a therapist who specializes in trauma and abuse, that can be huge.
I imagine it can feel intimidating to open up to someone like that.
It can be, yeah. But a good therapist, they create a safe space.
A space to process everything.
To untangle those narratives that the narcissist might have spun.
It's almost like deprogramming yourself, in a way.
It is, kind of,
Yeah.
because after a while, that manipulation starts to feel normal,
Yeah, you start doubting your own instincts.
A therapist can help you rebuild those, help you trust yourself again.
The blog post also mentions finding a strong support system.
Yeah, but I bet that can feel so hard after being isolated like that.
It's like, who can you even trust?
Right. But rebuilding trust is, essential to healing.
It's just, how do you even begin?
Start small. Reach out to someone you trust, someone who's always been there for you.
Even if you haven't talked in a while.
Even if it's just a quick message, baby steps.
It's about those small moments of connection, right?
Exactly. And maybe consider a support group specifically for survivors.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Being with people who just get it, who don't judge.
It's like finally being able to breathe again.
We also haven't talked much about self-care, which is so important.
It's easy to forget about yourself when you're in survival mode.
Oh, totally. You're just trying to get through each day.
Walking on eggshells, focused on pleasing the narcissist.
But as you start to reclaim your power, You got to prioritize yourself.
Those things that make you feel good.
Whether it's long walks, a hobby, or just taking a nap, you know?
It's like saying, I'm worthy of care and I'm going to give it to myself.
Yeah, filling up your own well after it's been drained.
So what's the biggest takeaway you hope listeners get from all this?
Remember your worth. Narcissists want you to feel small and powerless.
But you are not defined by their abuse.
You're strong, you're capable, and you deserve a good life.
A life filled with love and respect.
If you're feeling lost, please reach out for help.
There are people who understand, who can help you find the light.
You're not alone.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been...
We hope it's given you some insight, some hope.
Knowledge is power, you know?
The more you understand about narcissistic abuse, the better equipped you are to break free.
So keep learning, keep growing, keep healing.
And take care of yourselves.